God made it plain at the Tower of Babel that even when human beings come together as one to do any kind of enterprise, that there's no stopping us. And at the Tower of Babel, he basically said, I've got to put an end to this project by basically dividing them up. And he confused their languages, and so humanity went in all separate ways. And instead of working together like it was designed from the beginning, and everybody taking care of each other like it was designed from the beginning, now we're all caught up in our own national interests. We're all caught up, in some cases, even in our own personal interests. And we don't really care what happens to the other person, especially in larger cities where there's not the ability to connect with so many people. The church was meant to be a place where human beings could come together as one again. And of course, if you read God's words back at the Tower of Babel, you realize that this is critical to being able to solve the problems and the difficulties and the troubles that humanity faces today. I believe that there's nothing we can't solve if we came under God, of course, and came together as one. And that's the reason why Jesus prayed that his church would be one. And denominationalism undermines that oneness by everybody going after their own preferences, rallying around their own flags and whatever interests there may be over there, instead of pursuing God's interest for the world. We've been sidetracked by doctrinal issues and rituals and practices, and we've gotten to where we fuss and fight and divide over those kinds of things instead of coming together as one to really solve the world's problems. And you can say, well, denominationalism doesn't necessarily do that, but in practice it actually does. Churches don't work together. They don't come together. They don't take on projects that are bigger than their own little interests, because they're caught up in the little interests of their group instead of the interests of God for the world. And that, of course, can't be, nobody can carry the whole weight of the world on their shoulders. No group of people can. But if we all came together as one and we all went to work on the things that were happening in our communities, then we'd be able to do that. But instead, the current practices, the way we do church, make that really difficult, because instead of, really bonding with people, we sit in an auditorium where everybody faces forward and basically is focused on what's taking place on the stage. And that's the reason why whoever's preaching and whatever programs they've got established and things like that are often the reasons why people go to church today instead of denominational allegiances. That's one way that it works. But then also we've invested trillions of dollars in facilities and the upkeep of facilities and all the rest of that stuff. And when you go back to church as it was in the first century, the focus was not on trying to procure facilities and make those our focus. Instead, money went to take care of the poor, to make care of those who were hurting, to reach out and touch people's lives. And that's the reason why they had such an impact on the world of their day. Not only did they take care of one another and it became obvious they really loved one another, but they also were showing the world a way out of the mess that they are in, that we're stuck in, where we can't come together. And in Jesus, we were supposed to find a way where we could bring all people together under their Creator once again and bring an end to this sin that's wrecking and ruining the world, humanity's rebellion against their Creator. So I hope that with just a little thought, we'll begin to question whether denominationalism is something we ought to practice. And really, is it possible to be just a Christian? Or do we have to wear some other name brand? I know a lot of people who defend the practice, but I wonder if that's really the way God intended for it to be. And if Jesus' influence isn't being stifled in the world because his people can't come together, the ones who believe that he does have the answers for the world, that he can save us from the mess we are in, but they don't come together as one, and so as a result, we don't have the impact. And Jesus doesn't have the impact that he was meant to have. After all, the church is his body. People are looking to us to see what Jesus would do in our day. What message are we sending? Please subscribe to my channel. It's called Stifling Jesus. And thank you as we proceed this journey.